And one person who is not having a fun time in Las Vegas is Max Verstappen. He's made a lot of comments that I'm sure y'all would consider negative. The beginning of the race weekend, Max said that this was a 1% race and 99% show. I'm sure y'all probably saw that opening ceremony where they had all those concerts. Max Verstappen said that he felt like a clown standing up there because he really felt like that it was not necessary. He doesn't really appreciate the spectacle F1 organized when they race in the United States. And he doesn't like how most of the fans were partying and getting intoxicated at the track in the heart of Sin City. And that's basically, what Las Vegas is. Max has also been very critical of the track and said he's learned nothing new. Then on the FP1 mess, he said if he were a fan, he would just tear down the whole place. And Esha, starting with you this time, do you think Max is crossing the line here, being the world champion of the sport, but acting like the Las Vegas party pooper instead of, completely embracing the idea like you've seen that Lewis Hamilton or Charles Leclerc do? And do you anticipate more boos from American race fans like we saw at COTA?
Kobe, I personally don't think that Max obviously has to embrace whatever's happening in Las Vegas. He doesn't have to shout out from the rooftops that he's enjoying it or take part in all of the festivities and events. But as a professional, you don't go and, in such a negative way, overly criticize the race as well. I think that he's obviously allowed to have his opinions on the matter. And if he doesn't like events, he doesn't like the fun, he just wants to focus on the racing, that's totally fine. There's other drivers that are like that. But I think that he really did cross a line talking about it in such a negative viewpoint, and with the fact that the weekend isn't even over yet. If he talked about this later on in the off season or something, I think it would have been better. But while the weekend is going, for him to say such negative comments, I think he's definitely crossing a line, and he's for sure going to be hearing a lot more boos when he wins. Notice how I said win, not if, but tonight when he wins, he's definitely going to be seeing a lot more boos, not only because he won, but also because of the negative attitude that he's had this whole weekend so far.
Well, Yusha, I think I'm going to have to disagree a little bit. And again, with all due respect, I don't really like these kinds of questions because I feel like one of the most common complaints that we have with today's young drivers, I think particularly on the NASCAR side of things, but maybe a little bit in Formula One and perhaps IndyCar as well, is that today's drivers are just so boring. They're so vanilla. They don't show enough personality. They don't have strong enough opinions on what's happening in the sport. Now, you may not like Max Verstappen's opinion. You may not like his attitude. You may not like the dominance that he's shown. And Isha, to your point as well, I think it's Charles Leclerc's on pole. I think that automatically equals a Max Verstappen win, right? I think that there's a very good chance that that's going to be happening tonight, or this morning, I guess, for us here on the East Coast. But I don't feel like it's right to come down so hard on Max Verstappen for these comments when, in the same breath, a lot of fans today are lamenting the fact that the perennial most popular driver in NASCAR, Chase Elliott, isn't necessarily known for having such a great outgoing personality and engaging with thoughtful insight and opinions and analysis on the sport. Again, Max Verstappen is doing so in a little more of a negative light here, but I don't think that, let me just say this. I'll take that any day over, the Chase Elliott's of the world that aren't going to offer any kind of opinions at all. So I understand why Max is polarizing. I certainly think that he's going to get booed this weekend if he wins again. But again, I think that's more of an American sports thing as well. America doesn't like to see somebody win 15 out of 16 races and a formality, if you will, a boring, predictable procession in terms of who's going to be winning all these races. I think that's probably more where the boos are coming from than the negative comments that Max has on this race, which, let's be honest, based on what happened Thursday night into Friday morning, I think are going to be shared by a lot of fans, if anything, as well.
That's a good point. And I think that what we're seeing is just kind of a result of who Max Verstappen is. Max Verstappen is literally bred to be a world champion. And he is someone who thinks about nothing but racing. So when he's won a championship so far off, he's in a situation where this is a little more spectacle than race. This is not one of the traditional races on the calendar. They're trying to drive up hype. They're trying to drive up interest in the sport in a championship that is already over, both in the drivers and in the constructors. He doesn't have the competition that he wanted from like something like a 2021. And he's kind of looking out and seeing that there are no more worlds to conquer in a way. And, he's looking at what is left in a season when he wins so early is all this pomp and circumstance. That's all that's there for him. So I think that's more what he's lamenting. And Las Vegas, the spectacle that it is, a heightened version of that. If we had races like Spa at the end of the year, I don't think he would have anywhere near as much of as a complaint. But Las Vegas, there's no way to do it without making a spectacle of it. That would feel hollow and strange. So I think it's stacking on top of each other. It's adding. I wouldn't say insult to injury, but it's definitely compounding.
I think y'all made some really excellent points. I also wanted to point out some more comments Max Verstappen made in an ESPN article. He said one of the biggest things for him, he said that the Las Vegas Grand Prix is really lacking a lot of emotion and passion. And when this race was announced, a lot of people have been like that this could eventually become another crown jewel on the schedule, just like winning the Monaco Grand Prix. And when Max was asked to compare Monaco and Las Vegas, he basically said it didn't even come close. He said Monaco is like the Champions League, and he said Las Vegas is like the National League. And if you follow soccer in Europe, that the National League is a lower tier of English soccer. So Max doesn't really rank this high at all. And Ben, like you were saying, we need to be appreciative, as spectators of the sport, of people like Max Verstappen. While you may not always agree with what he has to say, you have to appreciate the fact, that he's willing to voice his opinion. He's not like some drivers out there, who would rather pacify the higher ups and not say anything to criticize the sport. It's not Max Verstappen's job, as the world champion of Formula One, multi-time world champion of Formula One, to openly be their PR person. That's someone else's job. That's not Max Verstappen's job. So I really do appreciate his honesty here, rather than just fall in line and try to push the message that Formula One wants to hear. Yeah, I know he'll probably get booed at some point later tonight. Whether they're upset because of his comments or because he's probably going to win again. And American race fans, they like to see parity. They don't like to see the same winner over and over again.